I'd like to start with Ms. Folks and ask you if you could describe or explain to us the role the FCC plays in the emergency alert system and how that interacts with the larger, what they refer to as the IPAWS communication system. Kind of just how does the FCC, that's sort of where this committee's jurisdiction and interest is, how do they relate in this whole sequence of events?
The FCC is responsible for the distribution part of the EAS and WIA. In other words, we adopt and administer rules that apply to the communication service providers that participate in those two systems. For example, with respect to WIA, we have rules that would apply to the participating wireless carriers in terms of how their infrastructure is to react when it receives the alert. Certainly issues like geotargeting are the types of things that we would govern. With respect to the EAS, what capabilities their EAS equipment must have in order to receive and transmit an EAS alert. We do not have authority over the alert origination piece, which is the part of the system where government agencies decide whether to issue an alert, what the alert is what information the alert is going to include, the target area. That's not within our purview. FEMA oversees the integrated public alert and warning system. So basically, you kind of think of it as three pieces: the alert origination piece, the IPAWS piece, which is FEMA, the distribution by the communication service provider. They are participating under rules that are adopted and administered by the FCC.
Do you see any need to change the rules based on this incident?
That's something that I really can't answer. The FCC doesn't have a position on that. I think in terms of that, it wouldn't be so much changing a rule. It would be something that would have to change in terms of our authority. Certainly, if Congress decided it wanted to make changes, we would stand ready to provide technical assistance with any draft legislation. And obviously, if Congress enacted some legislation, we'd obviously implement it.
Well, do you have, is the FCC, to that point, ever exerted jurisdiction over alerting authorities and to require that their best practices used and to make sure that there are adequate safeguards in place to prevent false alerts?
No.
And do you think, I mean, do you believe the Commission has the authority or tools that it needs to ensure that an incident like the one that happened in Hawaii never happens again, currently?
Given the fact that the problem was on the alert origination piece, the FCC does not have authority over in that area.
Right, okay. So just to ask, I guess, the obvious question, at least the one intuitively that I thought of when I heard about all this, and that is, so you described this as a three-part process, and the FCC is on the distribution part of it, the origination alert, and then the FEMA clearinghouse function. It seems to me, why then did, this is a ballistic missile threat. I mean, this is a DOD, this is like nuclear war type thing. Why was a state agency involved in that alert? And I understand, we have a lot of experience in my part of the country with weather, and so the National Weather Service works closely with FEMA, and all those alerts go out if there's a potential tornado threat, that sort of thing. But it seems to me, at least in this case, I'm still at a loss as to how, if there's an origination of the alert, and then sort of a clearinghouse, how that got so messed up. Anybody want to take a stab at that?
Well, from the FCC's perspective, we really can't give an opinion on that. We are not involved in any way in deciding who issues what alert. That is a decision that's on the purely on the alert origination side. In terms of this specific incident, I would have to refer you to FEMA and DHS.
Okay. Mr. Bergman, could you just briefly talk about the wireless industry's role in that emergency alert system? And I know you talked about it generally in terms of the role that you all play, but particularly in light of this recent discussion and whether, you know, it's been a success in your view.
So, thank you, Chairman Thune. I think time and again, we've seen over the last 5 years that wireless emergency alerts are a lifesaver. They've helped return kids who have been abducted. They've helped folks avoid tornadoes that are rolling through their town. And now we're starting to see them used for blue alerts to help identify and locate suspects. And there are a couple of key reasons why. The geo-targeting, right? Wireless emergency alerts are the only tool in our toolbox right now that help find you where you are and get that message to you right then. And now as we continue to improve wireless emergency alerts, we've given the ability to access URLs and embedded links and content so that you can get that information and act on it, and that's a powerful combination.